So, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Welcome. Yes, hello. Welcome, everybody, to the expert talk of Undutchables, session number 4, diversity on the work floor, how to make sure your female applicants make it to the final cut. So, who's there today? Let's introduce ourselves. Now, yeah, since I'm talking, my name is Marjan Stoit. I'm Sales and Recruitment Manager of Undutchables. And Undutchables, of course, we are the specialized in international recruitment for internationals who are looking for a job in the Netherlands, multilingual people. And today we have a guest speaker, and that's Wendy. Hello, Wendy.
Hi, it's really nice to be here. I'm the founder and CEO of Superwomen Academy and Super People Academy. We're a company who helps other companies to attract more women, to make sure that they stay, and we help them to grow their career within that company as fast and as easily as possible. To keep it real short.
Yes, thank you.
To you, Marjan.
Okay. Now, the program of today is that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about diversity on the work floor and the research that I did and the things that I found. And of course, then we go over to Wendy Broersen. She's going to explain how to make sure your female applicants make it to the final cut. After that, wrap up and Q&A. In the meantime, in the Q&A, you can ask questions, and then I can interrupt Wendy to ask your question and see if we can answer it right away. And at 11 o'clock, it's finished. So we go to a first slide, and yeah, if you see the first picture, it's quite hilarious. We've come a long way. If you see the picture, it's all men in suit, and that was how it was in the past. And nowadays, in the 2020, it's more diverse. As you can see, the picture, it tells it all. Yeah, so what I found on in the research is that diversity and inclusion must be priority on the agenda, and then of course with a big wish to include more women at the top. At the end of September last year, even the Socio-Economic Council presented the advisory report Diversity at the Top, that it's time for acceleration, which advocates for stronger message, including so-called growth quota. And they say if it doesn't go any better, then we need to set quotas for supervision boards for listed companies and target figures and action plans for smaller companies. So diversity is an ongoing important topic and very important to pay attention to for a healthy, balanced company. HR managers should put it high on agenda, also in this time of the year when Corona is, everybody's dealing with Corona restrictions and busy how to keep the business going. I found that research is showing that from consultancy Berenschot and House of Performer and Ava Software, that 66% of the respondents do not actively have a policy on diversity. So a third of that group is very willing to have more focus on diversity. Only 20% say they have actively a policy in place on diversity and inclusion. So even though there is a lot of social and political attention on this topic, it remains not a priority for many companies, which is a shame because the value of having a diverse company is very clear and has proven to be a key of success. Undutchables is also very diverse, very inclusive, and we are very proud of that. So it's very good to keep that. And but we have another problem to keep more men in our business, but that's not the topic of today. Today is more women. But first I go further with my research. What I found, so that within the public administration sector, there's more focus on diversity, 44%, and in the industry, only 15%. So why is it so important to put diversity on the priority list? Ta-da. While researching, I found that diversity can actually improve the quality of companies. It creates multiple perspectives at the table, which prevents you from going in the same direction together. Groupthink can prevent different perspectives at the table. Groupthink means that realistic alternatives are not considered at all, or because they are not seen. Moreover, diversity can prevent a group as a whole from being prepared to take much more risk than individual would. So you get group polarization. Good morning. And it creates support within your organization. If the top consists of homogeneous people, which from the employees or the sales market do not identify, then that is not economically good for your company. Inclusion is very important in this regard, not only being invited to the party, but also feeling at ease. No one said that diversity makes it easier because it also creates more discussion. But if you're open to that, the quality of your decision making improves. This is important for companies. We probably all know the saying, diversity is being invited to the party, while inclusion is also asked to be to dance. Yeah, when you're asked to do the same dance as everyone else, you are not talking about inclusion, then you are talking about integration or assimilation. Yeah, it's the difficult word morning here, but I think you all understand. But that's the exact opposite. If it makes you the same as us, instead of we give you the space to be different. So inclusion is very important. So it's no longer about cultural fit, it's about the culture added value. And organizations that embrace that insight can really benefit from it. And Wendy goes further on that. Okay, so more diversity is giving great treats and benefits, but how do we get more women in the diverse group? Yeah, what I found as a non-expert, but I can find really good research articles, is it is really important to look at your interview process in your recruitment process. Be alert that you create a diverse interview panel, a good balance between men and women. And research shows that if you look for quality in people, you're unconscious to that from your own quality. You will mainly look for characteristics that you own, which you recognize as quality. This is related to the stereotype that you have about it. The stereotypical manager is mostly still male. And if you have several candidates in front of you, you can come to the conclusion under the influence of the so-called implicit gender bias that it is the man who is the best candidate. When the interview panel is mostly men, it is thought that rejecting the feminine quality is objective, but research shows that it often happens on subjective grounds. In this way, organizations continue to attract the same kind of people without knowing it. Make sure you check the language you use when making a vacancy text. That's of course written all over, but means you have to do it. Or when making other communications such as marketing campaigns. The language used in vacancy text is often masculine without having that intention. Especially important when you would like to attract more women in, for example, IT or sales, to be aware that your own bias when writing the vacancy test. When organizing these actions, it's very important to make diversity a priority topic in the management team. Diversity a priority topic in the management team. They should feel this as a responsibility and send the right message over to the rest of the company. When the management and even the stakeholders are supporting the diversity policy, only then it can be a success. It is not just a task only for the HR department, but for the whole organization. That's good to remember. On the 1st of September, I saw on nu.nl that if women and Dutch people with a non-Western background are still unrepresented in scientific education and research at university in 5 years' time, then the cabinet is considering setting a quote so that institutions are obligated to equalize the numbers. So it's quite important to start now and not be hand over to quotes, because we can do it ourselves, can we? This is stated in the action plan that's published by the cabinet, and the parties who all endorse the action plans are currently setting targets for 2025. So if we start now, we're ready in 25. So this is a good moment to go to the real expert on this topic, Wendy Broersen, and give us some more advice on how to deal with this topic, which we do need to get started this year. Wendy, she introduced herself already, so I would say, go, Wendy, it's your time now.
Well, thanks. First of all, welcome everybody. I didn't say that yet, so I'm seeing a lot of attendees that I'm really happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about making notes what's on my slides, because by the end of the presentation, I will give you a link where you can download the slides. So don't worry, just, you know, pay attention. And if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A, because I will try to answer them right away. And if I miss one, Marjan will help me with that. So
Yeah.
don't wait until the end, because it might be a nice addition to what I'm talking about. And also I'll make it more relevant for you. And that's my aim for today. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Very good.
I'm gonna bump you out, Marjan.
Yeah. Great.
Let's see if we can work this out now. Okay. So in case you didn't know yet, we're going to talk about how to make sure women make it to the final cut. And we have a special house style, which is called pop art. So this is what you do. You want to look for women. Most recruiters and HR are women, but you want to look for them, but not only find them, but also keep them in the process in order to create a balance within your workforce. First, some facts and figures, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and also maybe some surprising facts and figures that would that you have to keep in mind in order to be successful. The first of all is when you need your employee to help you create inclusive text, you can use this, because inclusive text will not only get you more women to apply, but it will attract more applicants in general, in total. So if you change your vacancy text to inclusive text, you will not only attract more women, but also more people. And that makes it very valuable, because you'll have more people to choose from. The approach a woman uses is often more invisible than a man would use, even though it can be just as effective. And that's what I see a lot. Women do things differently, and they. Oh, I see a question of Corey Reardon. It says, what is inclusive text? Ooh, inclusive text. Inclusive text means that the very masculine text, like a real go-getter, text that is aiming for success or instant results, is considered to be not inclusive, especially for gender biases. Inclusive text also means taking the, I've seen it a lot actually. You see a text where the description of the job is in the third person, but in a he will have to be excellent in this and this and that. He will, and his responsibilities are. And so if I'm a woman, you know, and I read this his and he and his, I wouldn't really feel connected to it, because they're obviously not talking about me. So inclusive text, there's actually a couple of software tools out there that you can use to make sure that your text is inclusive. And for anybody that is interested, please make a connection with me on LinkedIn. I can direct you to the right articles, or we're actually, we have a list ourselves as well that you can use, just to make sure that most of the inclusive text is out. Inclusive text is out. So coming back to this slide, women do things in a different way, and the problem is that they are judged on the way that they do things, but not on the value that they, or the effectiveness of their ways. So that's something to consider, and especially when you're interviewing women in the reviewing process. If it's a male-dominated environment, she'll be the odd one out. And you need to be aware of that. She will feel like the odd one out, and they will feel like she's the odd one out. So that's something that you really have to keep in mind when you're doing your recruitment. And this is something that you also need to be aware of. We love people that look and are like us. It's in our reptile brain embedded, so it's something that you cannot steer away from. But if you're aware that this is the way your brain thinks, there's ways to, you know, bypass that reptile brain reaction. This is also an interesting research that has been done. If there's only one woman in your applicants pool, there's statistically no chance she'll be hired. And I'll get back to the research that has proven this, and it has been proven in several researches, but they were the first, so that's why I'm granting them the honor of being in my presentation. It's an astonishing result it was for me, because I knew this was happening, but I didn't have the facts and results of research. But if you look at these statistics, if there's a finalist pool of 3 women and 1 man, the likelihood of hiring a woman is still just 67%. If you look at it statistically, it should be 75%, but it's not. So still they lean a bit more to men, even though there's 3 women and 1 man in this pool. Funnily enough, if it's a 50-50 situation, the likelihood of hiring a woman is just as likely as hiring a man. But sadly enough, if there's only 1 woman on your shortlist and 3 men, the statistically, oh God, this is a word, really. Statistically, it's 0%. So your job, if you want to get more women hired, should be that at least you get a 50-50 in there. I know this is really a challenge, especially on tech and IT functions, but if you want to make sure that there's more women hired, you need to be aware of these studies, and you need to be aware of these statistics. I thought it was, it blew me away the first time I saw it, and it still blows me away because it doesn't feel fair. And yeah, I like things to be fair. Another statistic, and this is pre-corona, is that 72 women are promoted to manager for every 100 men. And so there's a difference in there, and it's a really bad statistic. And first research after 6 months of corona is that it got down to around 60%. So 60 women are promoted for every 100 men. So something's going wrong in these times. So what I want you to do is just stop thinking about all this. Well, keep it in the back of your mind. And how about you have a look at your process? And the process starts with the job listing, even before that, because the company website is one of the places where applicants look even before they're really looking for a job. And if your company website is not inclusive, and I'm not just talking about gender diversity, but all kinds of diversity, you will not attract a diverse pool of applicants. And it's a bit of a joke at the second one. It says pictures, images, and photos. Yeah, all of it. So make sure that there's a nice variety of diverse imagery on those websites, and not just a vacancy website, because people are going to check out the company website, and a lot of companies have a special website for just the vacancies, but it is really important. Inclusive language again, and this is a tip that you can just take with you right away. It's an easy one. It's been researched all over the world, and apparently the number of bullet points has a huge effect on how many female applicants you will attract. So it's been proven that when there's more than 5 bullet points, the percentage of female applicants goes down by almost half. So that's really important. So try to keep those bullet points to a minimum, and the best amount is 3. I know that's a challenge for most of you, so don't worry. What you can do, that's a remark I often get, yeah, but I need to put all kinds of information in there. Yes, you can still do that, but do it in text and not in bullet points. And also there's been research that why less women will apply, and it works like this. If there's 10 bullet points and a woman can only check about 7 or 8, she will think, oh, but that's not enough, so she won't apply. And this is international, so it has no cultural, there's no culture difference. If a man sees 10 bullet points and he checks about 6 or 7, he will apply, because he will think, oh, but I've got more to offer, and so they will apply and the women won't. If you bring it down to the bare minimum of 3, maybe 5, you will be more effective on attracting more female applicants. And the other thing is that it's really important because they're not, especially in certain areas and certain branches, there are not too many women out there. It is very important that you ask what cannot be learned. When Marjan saw this slide for the first time, she was like, but what do you mean? So I'll explain it. If you ask for that what cannot be learned, I'm asking for soft skills. So because if an applicant is missing something that can be learned in like a week course or maybe even a 2-day course, it shouldn't be on your list. You should ask for stuff that is important for the team, and soft skills like a really good communicator or socially aware of things. Those things can be improved, but they cannot be learned. It's in you or it's not. Creativeness is something you can't teach people to be creative. They are creative. You can teach people to be more creative, but you know, at the core, so soft skills are really, really important. That's the job listing part. The application process is another place where you can make sure that more women get to the final cut. First of all, it would be awesome if you can make your application process anonymous. So the applicants have to send in their CV or they have to send in their video. It would be better if you steer away from anything that is non-inclusive. So age, photos, names, those will affect your shortlist. It has to be inclusive and make sure it's female friendly. That's another one that raised a couple of eyebrows when I talked about this at a client. And they were like, but what do you mean by female friendly? And then I said, well, most women try to make it as perfect as possible. So if you, and that's what keeping them from sending in an application. So if you make it a real fact-based application process, it's easily for them to apply, and it will raise the number of applicants that are in the process. That's what I said. In this time, these times, it's video is all and everywhere, but stay away from video as long as you can, because it will affect your shortlist immediately. A candidate could look really great on paper, but as soon as there's a picture, a name, or a video involved, people will change their minds. Actually, I want to share you a best practice of one of the tech IT clients that I had. They're in Sweden. Well, actually, they're all over the world, but the person I talked to is in Sweden, and they invited all women who applied for an interview. So they didn't do any reviewing on it, as they didn't care for the CV or the list of skills that they presented. They invited all women. And then I asked them, but why did you do that? And they found out that this was a great way to get more women on their short lists, because women are just not as good as men to, in short of a better word, brag about their the stuff that they're really good at. And if they are in an interview, they would, you know, extract that information out of these women. And then I found out that most women were really good and a good fit for the vacancy. And that's also something that I got back from a lot of recruiters that I've talked to and interviewed. And the recruiters said, if a woman will say, I can do that job, you can bet your ass that she can do it. If a guy says, I can do that job, and I'm talking in generalizations, right? It's not for everybody, but if a guy says, I can do that job, you kind of have to wait and see if he really can do the job. Women are not that much of a risk taker as men are. It's a pro and a con on both sides. But yeah, be aware of that. And they are really successful with this strategy. It doesn't cost you any money, and or not extra money anyway. And you will get more female applicants this way. The first review, like I said, it's really important at the reviewing process that is just on facts, because anything that is subjective is just what it is. It's subjective. So if you have a reviewing committee that is all men, and that is the case in a lot of situations, make sure that the reviewing is just on facts. Actually, if you are in any way involved in the internal reviewing process, make sure that it is based on facts as well. And if you're asking or reviewing subjective parts, make sure that it is not coming from one source. You have to have multiple sources to be able to really know if somebody is a great communicator or yeah. So if it's not facts, you need to have more sources. And another great tip, you are in this expert talk. That also means that you are very open to have more women in there. So if you would create trust and a platform with the people that you help find the best applicants, you can make sure that a lot more women get through. But they have to trust you on this first. So you need to make sure that you are on the lead on that. The reviewing committee, I already showed you a couple of things, but an inclusive committee, it means that, and that's why I said watch the numbers. Also, research has shown if you have a committee of 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, it's not going to get you more women on your short list. If it's 4 people, 3 men and 1 woman, it's not going to get you more women on the shortlist, even though there's a woman in there. There's a lot of psychology reasons why that is, but take it from me, that's the case. So if you want to change how the reviewing committee reviews women, you either have to put somebody in there who's also an odd one out, so that, so for instance, if you have 4 people in there, 1 woman, 2 white men, make sure that you have somebody of color in there, because then she's not the only odd one in there, and then it balances it out. Or raise the numbers. So like, let's say, make it 5 people and then 2 women. Just make sure that the woman in the committee is not the only one, the only odd one out. Another way to make sure that the reviewing committee, if that's not a possibility, to put more women in there, is to write a really good reviewing script, in which they cannot steer away from. So make sure that the right questions are asked and they're fact-based. And the specific gender-specific questions, we all know, and in Holland and a couple of other countries, it's even illegal to ask a couple of questions like that. Like, do you want to have children in the future? Is a question that is actually illegal. But I talk to so many female employees, and they have heard that question more often, like more than not. So, but also things like, do you have children? Do you have a spouse? It shouldn't be in that first interview. Of course, if you have a short list, at the final shortlist, yes, you can ask those questions. But if somebody has children or not, and if somebody has a partner or not, is not an indication that they couldn't do that job perfectly. So, yeah, so make sure that gender-specific questions are kept out of that script. There's another side, which is the female applicants, because it's not just the fault of maybe a not inclusive text or the reviewing committee. The female applicants are another party in the picture. I always say, if you want to change things, you have to work on both sides, and then you take 2 steps forward. Female applicants, you can help female applicants by prepping them, by making sure that they fit into the culture. And then when you prep them again. And with prep them again, I mean, you can prep them up front, and then right before they enter the interview, you can prep them again. Make sure that that they will talk the way that they like to hear, that the committee likes to hear them talk. And the why did I put it in there? Actually, a couple of clients of ours did this, and the number of female applicants on the shortlist improved by 50% or more. So it's a really effective strategy. And the other thing is you can introduce them to other women in your company before they go into the interviews. Because if they feel like they're going to be at home, they're gonna, and they hear from the women how things go and what works and what doesn't work, it will help them in the reviewing process. Reviewing process. I talked to, okay, Kobe Apoma. I can't read the full question. So Marjan, can you read it out to me?
Hi, Wendy. Can you elaborate the prep part again?
Okay, I'll go back.
Yeah.
Prepping. Prepping means most women use a lot more words to get to the point than men. So make sure that they tell about the projects in a short and concise way. Another thing is clothing. You can help female applicants to fit in more. I'm not saying that they have to dress like men. Please don't get me wrong on that. But if it's very conservative men in the committee, you can cater to that. If it's a committee that is basically all about the facts and about the numbers and about the zeros and ones, and there's a certain crowd, let me put it that way, make sure that the female applicants do not talk about social stuff so much, but make sure that they talk about those facts and figures. So women are different. So if there's a male panel that is going to review them, it's really nice if you prep them in a certain way, so they will fit in more without them turning into men, of course, which we don't want. Succession.
You got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, for some reason I can only see half of it, so that's why.
I can help you.
Yes, thanks. So succession is for a lot of recruiters important as well, especially if you're an internal recruiter. And succession is so succession is important, especially when a lot of companies do that. They move people within the organization to certain levels, and the way to be successful at succession and making sure that on the succession list, shortlist, there's more men and more women, you have to make sure your pipeline is filled. So and make women enthusiastic for the 1 or 2 steps before they get considered to become C-level or higher up. Set up a sponsoring program. We'll gladly explain what a sponsoring program is if people don't know that. It is different from a mentoring program, but way more successful, especially with internal recruiting. Make sure your potentials program is inclusive. We got hired by 2 companies that have a 50-50 people hiring. So it's a male, female. So 50-50 comes in. Out of that 50-50, 50-50 is selected for a potential program. They get flagged as being a potential talent for that company, but they saw that although the potentials are 50-50, they saw that the men were progressing way faster and easier than the women were. So we looked at their potentials program, and one of the things that we found out is that all of the trainers, or 99% of the trainers, were men. So these potentials got a program to develop themselves, but they didn't have any female role models in there, and they didn't get training from a female perspective. The bad thing about that is that women are trained to behave like men, like for instance in negotiation training, but they're not, so they don't feel really at home. So there's women that adapt that male way of doing things, but there's also women that just can't do it like that. And the other upside, if you make it inclusive, your future managers and in upper levels will know that there is a female and a male's perspective, so they will look at their team members and the people that they manage. They will look at them in a different way. So it actually has an extra bonus if you look at the potentials program. And another thing that really works, and a lot of people are against it, but it is very successful and very effective. Actually, Unilever has a 50-50 now. They're really proud of it. It took them about 12 years to get there. And they said setting KPIs was one of the most effective actions that they took. So that's why it's in there.
Okay.
Another thing is important, especially when, and this is also inside the company and outside of the company, networking. The funny thing is, if you look at your personal network, I'm a woman, my personal network is filled with women. It's just a natural thing. So if you ask men to name a couple of great and talented women, it's going to be very difficult for them because naturally there's more men in their network than women. So if there a way to mix and mingle that is if you have a women's network in your company, invite management men. So they will know to name, they will know names of talented women they've met. And if somebody asks them, do you know a talented woman, because we would like to have a more diverse team on, I don't know, sales, they would be able to name names. Another thing is that women love networking. They're really good at it, actually, but not professionally. So they make a really fast, they make a personal connection, which is a really good base, but then they don't dare ask for a favor or to help them with something. So men are working their networks more effectively in a professional manner. So it's interesting and worth working on. I actually did a training yesterday for Qualcomm where they asked me to do a training on professional networking because they see networking as one of the key ingredients to move their career. So they asked me to give a training on networking. That's my specialty, actually. Setting up mixed meet and greet events. Yeah, so make sure that if you are, we all know the Friday afternoon drinks and chats. Make sure that they're mixed, and also make sure, and it's easier to make them mixed if you do them at lunch, for instance, especially with people from a Muslim or Eastern background, and women are more likely to do a mix and mingle at lunch because work is work, and after work they would like to go home because family is a really important thing. And most of the caretaking stuff is done by women. So there's a couple of companies that I know that changed their mix and mingle events to luncheons, and that is an effective way to make sure that they mix. There's a question
from Christina. Hello, Wendy, can you please clarify why women are not able to use their network?
Well, they are able to use the network, but not professionally. So what I mean by that is, hey, I would love to get to know that manager who is the leader of a project that I would like to do. Can you introduce me to him? That's a question a lot of women won't ask. A lot of men do. They use their network professionally.
All right.
There's another question.
Yeah, how do you network during Corona? Charlotte asked.
Well, we talked about this just before you guys came on board. LinkedIn is one of the best places to do so, and networking. Yeah, I always network at everything. So I network when I'm speaking at an event. I network when I'm in a business meeting. I network the hell out of everything right now because there's no physical networking activities. So I use any contact that I have during the week, and it can be a project meeting. It can be, somebody that I talk to because he or she is interested in what I do. I use everything. That's what I recommend you do. And there's loads of really cool online events. Well, you're actually in one right now. So why not use those events not just to get the right kind of information, but also network the hell out of them? Because the bigger your network is, the better it is for your career, but also for your contacts. And I'm always really nice to my network. I try to help them as many times as possible. That's actually how I got here anyway. So try to be nice to your network, and then it will work for you. There's a saying that I love, by the way, because I'm living proof of the effectiveness of that. Your network is your net worth, and especially now. So really important. And there's another question from Christina.
Could you give us an example on how women could network more effectively? What is it that we do differently exactly?
So dare to ask. That's the easiest answer to that. You have to, the sooner you get a personal connection with a person, the better. Because if you have a personal connection and not on a salesy or because you want something from that person, that's actually why most men are more leaning to the salesy kind of way of connecting. But that's what women do really, really well. We get to the fact that the other person is also enjoying skiing really, really quickly, but then move it to a professional matter and see if you can do a virtual coffee with them. Make sure that you talk about work more than about private life or your personal views on things. And that's a mistake that I see a lot of women make. And they don't dare to ask. The worst thing that my mom always said, the worst thing that can happen to you is that they say no. But if you don't ask, you already have a no situation. So the worst thing that can, and also the best thing that can happen to you is that they say yes. So why not? Just ask. It's especially if you've done them already a favor in any kind of way, it's even easier to ask. So please do so.
Christina asked, I was thinking, what hindered them?
They feel that they're over asking real quickly. So it's more, they don't dare to ask because they feel it is, too much real quickly, but it's not. If it's, I always say, if it's something that they can do within 5 minutes, it's fine. If you ask somebody to do something that takes more than 5 minutes, like 15 minutes, for instance, then you have to have a really close relationship with that person, or you've already done them a favor, then it's easier to ask.
All right.
Karen says something?
In Sweden, that is differently. Here you do not ask about the personal things. You need to keep it professionally.
Yeah, well, in Sweden, I've done with Swedish people. Yes, you do not ask about personal things, but a personal view on things is a very feminine way of doing things. And so you need to keep on the personal. You need to keep out the personal stuff. So yes, talking about personal life is not that much done in Sweden. Actually, in Germany, it's sort of the same way. They don't want to talk about home stuff as much as, for instance, in Holland. They talk about everything. So it's different in every country, but the personal is not just talking about your home situation, it's also your personal view on things. And then so that makes it a bit difficult, more for them to network effectively, professionally.
All right.
Okay. Getting rid of the old boys network culture. Yeah. So it should not be accepted in your whole process of finding the right people. That, oh, I know a guy from school, like, you know, centuries ago, and then that should be a perfect candidate. So if you can keep that old boys network out of your reviewing process, it will help you to get more women in, because of the mere fact that most women don't have an old girls network yet. They're catching up, but it's still not there yet, not as much as the old boys network. And another thing that we're all guilty of, most women are, and I'm a firm promoter of sisterhood. You should, you yourself, but also the women in the organization should, you know, do more sisterhood. Promote the hell out of all women in there. That's basically what the old boys network is. So if we would promote women, any other woman that you know that is doing a great job, and promote them to the people around you, it would help things considerably. Instead of, well, she's nice, but she wears the wrong shoes, for instance. I'm giving you a really lousy example, but there's actually a phenomenon going on. Two of them, actually. There's a queen bee. She loves being the odd one out, and she doesn't accept any other women in her existence, in her neighbor, in her space. She loves being the odd one out, and that's the queen bee syndrome. And the other thing is that we call it in Holland the Krabble syndrome, which is basically, if you ever went to a fisher's market, if there's a basket with crabs in there, like the critters, crabs, they don't have a lid on it. And there's a reason for that, because crabs try to use other crabs to get to the end of the basket to get out. But in order to do that, they push other crabs down. But then there comes another crab, and that pushes that crab down. And that's basically it's getting better, but it's still the situation where there's women sort of down talking other women to be considered sooner for a higher position. And that's what we call the Krabbe system. So be aware of that.
Okay.
Guys don't do that.
Interesting.
Weird, huh? Yeah. It's a
not good
girl thing. Okay. And of course, you cannot be effective with your whole attract women and making sure that they stay and you know, get promoted and everything if your inclusion is not up to order. So your whole employee journey should be inclusive. There should be inclusive pre-boarding. There should be inclusive onboarding. How's the time? Ooh. Retainment. Make sure that there's inclusive reboarding and cross-boarding. I'm throwing a lot of stuff in there. I'm hoping that you get it. And alumni is a really nice way to make sure that if women leave your company, you can do alumni events. It will attract them, but they know great women as well. So if you do alumni, like schools do, remember, you finish the school and then there's what's the name of that, where you go back and then revisit your student life, and you see all these people that work everywhere now. It really works if you do that with old employees, ex-employees, I should say. And an inclusive company culture also means an inclusive company communication. Make sure that all the communication internally and externally is inclusive. And because otherwise you'll attract a woman and she'll be gone within 3 months, 6 months most. Okay, I think I went to, yeah, okay. So last slide on this is superwomenacademy.com/undutchables. Of course, where you can get the slides if you are interested in that. And also you'll be on our website, so you can reach out to me and have some communication about that. Christine, is something?
Yeah. What is reboarding and crossboarding?
Reboarding and crossboarding, it's used in different contexts, but it's sort of the same. Reboarding means that if you are in a company and you're doing one function and then you're going to another function, but then you need to reboard or crossboard because things are different in that situation. So, and that also happens when you, for instance, go from a German part of the company to a Dutch part of the company. You need to be reboarding and crossboarding or crossboarding just to make sure that that person feels at home and welcome on that as well. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Christina says. Very good. Any more questions, people out there?
Ooh.
Yeah, not so much. They asked already during the. Sorry.
I think I was pretty clear then. I hope this was of value of you. It would be very much appreciated if you would or could share what you think of this, and if this information was helpful for you in any way in the Q&A, because I know Marjan and the rest of Undutchables would be very grateful if you would. And
yes,
yeah, I'll leave it to you to close, Marjan.
Yes, you answered a lot of questions already, really nice. And thank you people for asking as well during the presentation. And of course, thank you for joining. And then I think it's time to leave out and wish you a nice day. And thank you very much. Yeah.
I see a raised hand of Kobe Ompoma. Maybe we should allow her to talk. Kobe. Him?
Wendy. Yeah. Wendy, do you have something similar for hiring Black talent? Is our contact person?
Yes, of course.
He's asking this.
Yeah, of course. Yes and no. It won't. You can use a lot of this for that purpose as well. But there are some differences in that. So it can help you with that, but maybe not here because that's too long. And I do have another meeting that I have to go to, as most of them will. But do feel free to contact me. You can find me on LinkedIn and reach out to me at a later stage, maybe.
Yeah, he says I'll reach out to you at a later stage. Yeah,
not two souls feel alike.
Yeah, exactly. That's really nice. It's a good question as well. Now, then it's for me the time to close this webinar. Thank you very much for watching all, and thank you, Wendy, for being our expert today. And
wish you. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, very good. Me too. And I see some. Thank you. Oh, can you please share the research that we have that you have mentioned? Yeah, it will all be shared, and we will all send emails.
Yeah, and if you have any more questions, Christine, about that, please reach out to me, and and then I'll answer those questions later on, or without you first sending a bill, of course. I don't work that way, so I'll help you in any way I can.
Remember, be friendly to your network, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day and see you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.